All right, guys, another day, another strength. Today we're talking about my financial journey, and we're talking about money, right? So first off, here's my philosophy on finance before I get roasted. Michael, you're greedy, you're awful, you're selfish, right? Let's break this down, right? Money is freedom and safety, right? The more money you have, the more time you have, and the more peace of mind you have, which is a great thing. Everyone should want that. I think everyone should strive for that, and really everyone can have that. I don't think that there is necessarily like a finite amount of money to go around. As new jobs are created, new industries are created, obviously like more money is pumped into circulation, as we can see. There's plenty of opportunity, there's plenty of wealth to go around. Everyone can have their own space, right? So I think everyone should strive for that. Money is freedom, it's safety, it's very important, especially to me, right? Money is power, right? Isn't that Scarface, where he's like, first you get the money, then you get the power. But yeah, money amplifies whatever's behind it, right? So if you place it behind a force for good, that force becomes overwhelming, right? It's like this awesome force for good and righteousness, especially when it's a righteous, just force, right? Very good stuff. But it can also be a force for great evil, especially when you like prey upon people, right? Prey upon people's shortcomings. So for example, like processed food, fast food, smoking, alcohol, right? Those people are making tons and tons of money, but at what expense, right? They're kind of preying upon people's vices, their whims and their impulsiveness and their hedonism. So I'm definitely not behind that. Gambling, same sort of thing. And then similarly to fitness, making lots or even like lots of money is not the same as making as much money as possible. So you can still make tons and tons of money without compromising your output of like good in the world, right? So as far as making the most amount of money and not hurting people, who knows, right? I'm not going to speculate on that. It's not my area of expertise. But I think there's a general not consensus, but like people have this idea that, if you get very wealthy, you have to have like taken advantage of people and hurt them. I don't think that's true. It probably becomes more true the more wealthy you get. But I think you can become quite wealthy doing things for good. But yeah, those are the reasons that I want to become very wealthy, because I think that I can do a lot of good if I do have a lot of money, a lot of free time. The more just and the more righteous my pursuits can be. But yeah, in life, this is the dad talk, right? In life, there's people that are either they want what you have and they're willing to take it at your expense, or they want something else and they're willing to hurt you or get that thing at your expense, right? So money is one aspect of protecting yourself, right? There's money, there's fitness, as I talked about. There's education, right? You gotta have knowledge. It's very important. Knowledge, like what is his name? Ty Lopez or whatever. But yeah, that's why money is important. It's one aspect of that, right? So you don't want to be foolish. It's like the Jordan Peterson thing, right? Like you don't want to be like a good guy who's foolish. You want to have, the dangerous side, but have it contained. Whatever. I'm not gonna go into that right now, but you know what I mean, right? Like it's important to do that. You don't want to be a fool. So money is important, right? You want to have that there so that you are strong. It's a form of strength. You can protect yourself, and not just yourself, but the ones around you that need protecting as well, right? That's part of strength of any kind. Perhaps the largest part, some might argue. So physical, mental, financial strength is you have to protect and elevate those that are less strong, right? The more strength there is on the side of good, the better. If you are depressed or you don't have anything, consider your bloodline, for example, right? Because I know tons of dudes that are like, they're already saying like, Michael, I can't get rich, I can't make money, I can't do this, I can't do that, right? So start with this, right? Consider your bloodline. Consider that your bloodline goes back like millions of years. How many years it goes, I don't know the exact amount, right? No one does. But everyone in your bloodline for however many years survived and procreated up to this point, meaning that somewhere within you, there exists the ability to do the same thing, right? So don't be a doomer. Don't take the black pill, right? You can do this if you care about it. So that's a tall task, right? Because it kind of is. Start small, right? Just like go for a walk. That was my initial fitness journeys I talked about. I started like just running. Go for a walk, take that first step, take another. There's my TED Talk, there's my advice. But yeah, next you're in charge of your physical fitness. Once you're in charge of that, then you can be in charge of something else, right? So then you go to like finance, for example. Before you know it, you're full on responsible for yourself entirely. Now you can start to be responsible for another person, right? And then you can have an actual partner, and it's fulfilling, and now it's almost like addicting, right? It's a feedback loop. It keeps going. Then you can be responsible for more people. You either have children, or you become a manager at work or a boss or something, right? So now you're influential. You've got a community going of some sort. So you started by making a positive difference in your own life, and now it's radiating outward, and you're having that effect on a larger number of lives, and perhaps the entire world on the extreme end. And so money is an amplifier for that. So if you already start with that and you're a good person and you believe that, which you should, and then you do good in the world, and then you have a lot of money, you can really amplify that good that you're doing in the world, right? And then express gratitude at the end of the day, right? So I know people love to shit on the USA, very fashionable right now, but if you live in the first world at all, you know, like, we're not perfect, obviously, you know, you can say what you want about the country, but, you know, we have a pretty darn good here. There are things that we get wrong, but we're doing all right, okay? So yeah, be grateful. So anyways, my personal financial journey. I left Berklee College of Music in 2016. I had around $70,000 in student debt, which is a lot, right? And that was 2 Sallie Mae loans and then a very small federal loan. I had no idea what I was getting into, and I had zero financial literacy, and basically had the like, we'll worry about it later mentality. Basically panicked and decided to drop out of school at that time because I started to be like, wait a minute, I have like all this money that I actually owe, which it sounds dumb, but like I was very young, I was a child. That's why the student loan system is kind of predatory. Didn't know what I was getting into. And so I literally like did not know that I was going to owe this money back and not be able to pay it at some, or there was the possibility of not being able to pay it back at some point. Didn't even cross my mind. So then I was like, wait a minute, so if I keep going to school, I'm going to have like almost $200,000 in debt. I don't think I'm going to do that. So I dropped out of school. Thankfully, I was able to get basically the same job that I would have gotten anyways with a degree. Because with a music degree, it's not very useful. Spoiler alert, right? And so I began teaching music lessons to kids. So I moved to the city with my pals from college, 3 of them. So we had a 4-bedroom apartment. We each had this tiny little bedroom. We paid $550 a month, right? It was super cheap in 2016. So even back then, it was pretty good. And it was the best time ever, really, right? We were in this nasty little basement apartment. We called it the squat house. We were next to the trash. So it's like the basement window is level with the floor and the trash is right outside. Like literally you just see the trash and like a stone wall. So it didn't really get like sunlight or anything. There were bars on the windows, like a prison cell, to prevent people from breaking in. We didn't pay for heat, but the downside is that it would generate automatically. So you couldn't turn it on or off, like it would just happen. And it was just like one setting and it would just be super hot. So there were these giant like water pipes that ran through the apartment. In this basement, and then they would just radiate heat, which was also incredibly unsafe because they were kind of like, if you reached up like this, you could like accidentally hit one and just like scald the heck out of your hand. But yeah, it was pretty miserable, but it was a great time at the same time because we were with our pals and we were young and didn't really care. I was sleeping on an air mattress when I got there, and the apartment was full of spiders and occasionally mice, which was great. I remember one time I woke up and there was like a little spider like crawling on my stomach, and then it like ran across the floor, and that was terrifying. But yeah, I was teaching guitar lessons and working at a local ice cream place at night, so doing those 2 jobs. And then occasionally I would side gig with Fiverr at the time, transcribing guitar tabs. And I distinctly remember I was doing that and was just like so happy that someone would pay me to do something related to music that I was actually like making like $5 or less per hour, because I would charge like $5 and do this super detailed, like very high quality guitar tab and give it to them. And it would take me like 2 hours. But yeah, I did that because I just really enjoyed it. And I don't regret it at all, right? As the saying goes, how you do anything is how you do everything, and it definitely, carried over later in life. But in 2017, I got a car, and I made another poor financial decision in the form of leasing that car, right? So worse things can happen. I didn't like just take on a huge car loan, but I did lease the car. But then I turned it into kind of a positive, and I began using it to drive for Lyft and Uber. So I was doing like 30 to 40 hours a week of that. I left the ice cream job at that time, and then I was teaching around 15 to 25 hours a week on top of that. And that was around the time that I got into Dave Ramsey as well. And that's when I decided to clean up my financial mess. So in 2018, I moved back in with my dad to save even more money. And then I was throwing around like $3,000 a month into my student loans at that time. And then I was working pretty much 7 days a week, but I wouldn't say I never had any fun, right? Like I would still find time to go to the gym. I was still doing that very regularly, right? Because my fitness journey started around like 2018 with the gym. I saw my friends a couple times a month, right? Like we would, go out to McDonald's or, get something super cheap. Or like not spend money at all, just like hang out, play Super Smash Brothers. But yeah, I was living frugally for sure. But with this, I was able to heftily chunk away my student loans. And then I also was saving money on the side for my car because I decided that if I was going to drive for Lyft and Uber, I was going to go over the mileage limit for my lease, which you have to pay like a penalty for. But if you just buy the car, you don't have to pay that. You still have to buy the car, obviously. But I was like, I already have this car. I've been putting all these miles on it. I may as well just pay off the car at the end of the lease and then keep it. So I saved up a little bit. But aside from that, my only cash was my $1,000 emergency fund. And then once the car lease was up, like I said, I just bought it outright. because I'd saved up to do it. And then I still own that car today, and she's still chugging along. She's over 100,000 miles now. Just crossed that recently, so that's great. And then last year, 2023, I paid off the last of my student loan debt, and I started my Roth IRA, so now I'm actually investing and working towards my future. I'm getting married in October, and then after that, we're saving for our first property and all our future child stuff and all that. But yeah, it feels pretty great to have done that. But the reason I made this video, well, I talked about at the beginning part of why I did, but also these experiences, which is very similar to lifting, right? These experiences were instrumental in my development in the skill of finance. And the same thing happens in lifting too. Like you start, if you start like super fat or super skinny or whatever it is, you have a goal that you're trying to get to, and you have challenges to overcome, and you're gonna get stuck and you're gonna plateau and get discouraged, but it's just this long, slow grind, incremental process. So like getting out of debt was the same thing really. Like I learned these hard lessons, I learned how to work hard, I learned what it feels like to delay gratification. That's the biggest thing, right? Like the way that I feel like every single day now, having done that and not having any debt and being able to invest and knowing what it felt like to have that crushing debt in the past. Because like if you just like, I almost feel kind of bad for people that are either born with like great genetics for fitness, or they're born with a lot of money, is because you just like, I just don't feel like they can fully appreciate what it is to feel this way, right? To achieve something yourself through extraordinary, like consistent hard effort, and do something that most people will never do. And there really is nothing that compares to it. So I'm definitely, the type of person that gets very little out of buying things. That definitely helps a lot. I'm, even now, and will forever be very frugal. I'm definitely not gonna go out and like, I don't get joy out of like, if I, have accomplished something, I don't want to like go buy myself something. I'd rather like give myself time, I would say. That makes me feel better. Or like I'll go get ice cream or something like that, like a small meal or celebration. I'd rather spend it with people that I enjoy spending time with than like buying a thing. I'm not like a car guy or anything, that means nothing to me. Not really into expensive depreciating assets aside from, I guess, barbells and plates and that sort of thing. But even that is like a relatively cheap hobby compared to a lot of the ones out there. But I really enjoy the process of saving, accumulating, and investing because I really enjoy, like what really appeals to me most is just having enough money to live basically my current lifestyle, which is like pretty frugal, pretty meager, and just having enough money to sustain that and not have to do things that I don't want to do essentially. Like that is the thing that appeals most to me, more than like, I don't really care about having like a super nice house or a nice car or any of that stuff, right? I just want to have a family and have them be well taken care of and provide for them. And yeah, so my short-term goals with finance are to accumulate my first 100K net worth. My medium-term goal is to accumulate $1 million net worth, and then the long-term is to accumulate 10 million plus. And so just like in the fitness video, when I had those lofty goals there, right? 10 million sounds like a lofty goal, but it's actually achievable within a lifetime, right? So that's the key. Like I'm not gonna do it by the time I'm 50. I might, who knows, but probably like, later in life, like if I'm like 80, 90, because if I just have like certain investment accounts that I don't touch and let them accumulate, by the time I perish, I will have lots of money accumulated, right? But I think that what I have to offer to the world is multifactorial in terms of like both time and then financial, resources, right? So, I really enjoy coaching right now. Obviously, the more money I have, the more I can devote time to coaching, and I can coach people that don't have the money for it, right? Because that's the biggest thing right now is like everyone I coach is very successful. They have a lot of money because we're an expensive gym. But I would like to be able to coach people that have less at some point. So the more money I have, the more I can do that and not have to worry about, making enough money to live in the meantime, right? I can just have that through investments and then do what I want to do. And then as far as having more money also, that helps because then I can use that money to either like build things for the less fortunate, like I could, build gyms in less fortunate communities, or I could go and just like give money to those people, just straight up gift cash. But yeah, if I can accumulate enough money to be able to give my time for free, I think I can be very productive and do a lot of good in the world. And so that's why it's important for me to have a lot of money. And that's partially why I have this YouTube channel now. It's because it's just another option, another opportunity to not only like right now, I'm not making any money off of it, obviously, but like I'm able to put out a lot of good content, help a lot more people than I do at the gym. And then hopefully at some point I'll be able to make money from it. And then I would, honestly like to make a lot of money from it. And I was going to do another video on why I started the YouTube channel, but I figured I'll just talk about it now. So like, first of all, it is kind of selfish because really like I just have all these ideas about fitness and all throughout the day in my head, I'm just like having conversations with myself about different fitness related stuff and like ripping myself up. And also people at the gym too, they ask me questions. So I always have this constant stream of ideas, and I enjoy talking about it because it helps. Like, first of all, I just want to get it out. Like, there's just so much floating around. I want to put it out in the world. And then also it helps me to talk about those things in different contexts. So like talking to a client is one thing, you know, you have that feedback from them, you know, you're having a conversation. Whereas this, it's like I'm just talking at something, the camera, you know, and I have to think my way through whatever it is I'm talking about, which I like. So that's one aspect. I'm able to put a lot of, I'm able to hone my own skills in doing that. But then also it's a benefit for everyone that's watching the videos, right? Because I think I have very good information. I have a good bit of experience coaching now. And I'm able to impart that onto people for free, which is great. Even if even when the YouTube channel makes money, like I'm not charging you guys for it. Like it's through the ad revenue, so it's still free. I mean, I guess you have to watch ads, which sucks, right? So that is a cost for time, but there's ad blockers and stuff like that. So, you know, you'll find a way around it. But yeah. And then, so I think that's really it. Like definitely doing it for myself, doing it for you guys. And then I guess the money thing is like kind of both, right? Like there's both aspects with the money. It's like, it's selfish in the sense that I want to have a lot of money, but it's also, I want to use that money to help other people and to do more good and amplify the message that I'm creating here, essentially. So yeah, that's really it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. That is going to wrap up my story. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and feel free to ask other questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, goodbye.